going to be reacting to the Bee Gees being interviewed by Michael Parkinson. And this was requested, this was a Facebook request, so I'm going to make sure everything's turned up and we will start now. I hope that's enough volume. That's about as much as I can get with this headset.
Children's school in Miami. When in fact did you first start singing together? What was the first occasion? 1955.
Wow. So they first started singing together in 1955. That's cool. I was trying to find an option to put captions on here. Let's see if that'll work. I was hoping that there was going to be captions, but I don't think there is. So I hope this volume is loud enough for y'all to hear. And if not, I'll kind of go over what they're talking about as well. I usually would like to add the captions, but...
One of the great sin spots of the world. Very young. Yeah. But doing what? I mean, what were you doing? Well, what we used to do when we were little children is, you know, they have children's matinees like they have in the cinemas and places like that. We would try to cadge our way on stage to, well, most of the kids cadge their way on stage to mime to a record, Elvis Presley, whatever it was, they'd mime, you know. And we had, our record was Tommy Steele's Wedding Bells. That's how we were going to mime to that. How, I do not know, but we were going to. And we broke the record on the way to the theatre, so we'd been practicing.
Wonder how that happened. So if you didn't hear what Barry said, he was talking about how kids would go up and mime to other records, and one of the records was Tommy Steele's Wedding Bells, which I have heard of. And he said that they broke the record on the way there. I wonder how they did that.
And so we decided to actually sing instead of mime to a record, and that was the beginning of our career. That was the debut? Yeah. But what kind of, when did you first get together and discover you could harmonize like you?
And they're going to add a commercial right in the middle of a freaking... Seriously. Let me turn the volume down so you can't hear the commercial. I'm very sorry. I can't believe they do that. So I'll probably have to edit that out. So sorry about that. Hopefully I can edit that out, and if I can't, I'm sorry.
Barry was 9.
Sorry for the interruption.
We sat in the little lounge room and Barry got his first guitar for his birthday, and the first thing we sang was Lollipop.
Oh, that's cute. I love that song. That's a good song. That's a good song to harmonize to. I used to sing it as a kid.
Asked me where we got the Lollipop from, but it was the only one that seemed to have the harmonizing on each guitar for your birthday. That's right. Yeah, 9th birthday. Yeah, that was the first song we sang. Can you remember it?
Lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, lolly, lollipop, lollipop, oh lolly, lolly, lollipop. Love it. I love that.
You went back, of course, to Cheltenham Company, didn't you? On this recent... But 2 weeks ago. That's right. Yes. But was it very nostalgic? No, they told us to get out. Actually, it was very nostalgic. Yeah, but it was a wonderful day. Yeah. We saw the little house where we used to live. It was a big house when we lived there, but somehow it got real little, you know. We were stood in the lounge room where the man who lived there now actually is where he keeps his pigeon, you know. So you got a pigeon in the living room. Yeah. Pigeon droppings everywhere. And that was the lounge room where we first played. And the hardest part for us was imagining how us and Mum and Dad ever got into that room. Yeah. It was 5 kids. Yeah. Or for that matter, how Mum and Dad got in the bedroom.
Robin with his jokes. If you didn't hear what he said, they were talking about, Barry was too, about how small the house was, and when they went back, he was like, how did we all fit in there? And then Robin was like, matter of fact, how did Mom and Dad get in the bedroom? And I was like, nice little joke you added there.
How in fact, I suppose it was that kind of circumstance which led you to go to Australia, was it? I mean, that was the... Well, it was Mum and Dad based. Don't forget we were kids, and it was Mum and Dad who made all the decisions, and it was they were looking Dad wasn't earning an awful lot of money, so. Not a lot, nothing in fact. Well, that's it. We were living. Well, we were living. Not too nice. But was it a better life when you got there? Well, for us, it was like. Well, it was an adventure. I mean, all we knew of Australia was kangaroos, koala bears, and Aboriginals, and we expected to see them going down the main streets of Brisbane. We said our first view was Perth, wasn't it? The docks at Perth. That's right, and then Melbourne, and then Brisbane, which is Billy Connolly's favourite place. Billy Connolly's very big in Brisbane. Yes.
I did not expect them to mention Billy Connolly. He's one of my favorite comedians. Kind of curious to see what they're going to say about Billy Connolly now. That's cool.
But what did you? I mean, your dad had a fairly hard time, I believe, when you first went out there. I mean, there wasn't the land of opportunity, milk and honey. Well, he was a bush photographer. A bush photographer. Yes. Photographed a lot of bushes.
I want to look up the definition of bush photographer. Okay. It's interesting. I just wanted to look up the definition of a bush photographer. I don't know, I just wanted to know what it was.
He used to go out into the small towns and photograph people's families, Yeah, that's right. People had never even seen a camera. Yeah, the caravan where they developed their own film and they would shoot pictures of people and their families where they wouldn't go to a local chemist because they couldn't.
It's kind of cool that they would just shoot just pictures of families and stuff. That's really kind of cool. I've never heard the term bush photographer before. I mean, this is like the first time I've ever heard that term, so it's kind of interesting.
Fortune. So, I mean, did you help out? Were you we did eventually. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we started to do small club, small hotel work, which in actual fact we weren't allowed to be in. So because we were underage, so our father gave up that job and started managing us in a sense. And
I had no clue that when they first started that their father managed them. That's kind of interesting too.
He would always we'd have to come in the back door of these places. We weren't allowed to mix with audiences. We were too young. What was your act like then? I mean, what you were rather dicey, I'm afraid. But we used to do Peter Paul and Mary segments. We used to do old songs. My Old Man's a Dustman. You see, we were kids, and kids and dogs, appeal very much to adults. And how old were you, in fact, at this time? At this particular stage that you're talking about, we were probably about 7 and 9.
Wow.
We were 7 back.
7 and 9 years old.
What kind of curious gigs did you do in that period apart from the clubs? Did you do any other Speedway? Yeah, Speedway. We worked in a Speedway. That's right. Money. We've actually had people throw money at it. Well, in between the races, it wasn't during the races. It was mostly in between. Although sometimes I wonder which way it should have been. But they would throw money on the track. We'd sing some songs, and we worked in places like dockside clubs where sailors would actually have beer drinking competitions during the show, or there'd be a torrent of water pouring through a tin roof.
Wow. So like when they were younger, they would go to like dock places where they would have sailors doing like beer drinking competitions and wow. And they were young when this was going on, so this is really interesting.
Yeah, it's true. There used to be people sitting at tables and they would physically fight without standing up. Australians are great, you probably know that too.
So people would in the bar would physically fight without standing up. I don't know, I'm picturing all that and them being that young in there in that setting. It's really interesting. I don't really know what to say about that. That's just kind of crazy to think about, but I mean, I can see it, in that day and age and whatnot, but wow.
They'll get into a fight for any reason whatsoever. So they'll sit in front of us while we're singing and they'll be hitting each other across the table. I hit him again. I suppose the big revolution in your lives would come when the Beatles hit. I mean, that must have changed your thinking about what
That was probably big for a lot of people. He was saying that the biggest hit in your guys' life was when the Beatles hit, and the Beatles were a very big inspiration for a lot of musicians back in their time as well, and still to this day. I mean, I love the Beatles. I love every member just as much. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure that the Beatles were a big inspiration to them as kids and growing up, and a lot of other artists in their time period in the 60s onward. I have watched a lot of interviews with other musicians saying that the Beatles were one of their inspirations, especially musicians that started off in like the 60s and onward, or were kids in the 60s, heard the Beatles, got inspired by them, and that could be like one thing in like the mix of like a lot of things that they were inspired by, not just the Beatles. So, but it's kind of, I mean, I hear that a lot when I watch interviews with artists who were either famous in the 60s or teens or children in the 60s.
Wanted to be the kind of music. When hair started stretching and pointed toe shoes started getting rounder and things like that, that was for us. The pointed toes went out and the Cuban heels came in. The Brill cream was out the window. In that particular era, because it was the time when the Beatles first came around. It was the first time where pop music had a sort of seal of seriousness about it, rather than the solo singers with Brill cream, which was.
This is such an interesting interview.
Seriousness to the art of popular music, and that's what the Beatles. If any of the Beatles that did anything that was quite serious, they made it respectable. Yes, they sort of made it animals. What were you writing songs at that time yourself? Barry was first, then Robin. Well, we probably have the track record that beats them all. We had about 13 flop singles in a row. Really? In Australia, we haven't beaten yet, folks.
They had 13 flop singles in a row. Excuse my voice, I've got allergies, but 13 flop singles in a row. That's almost hard to believe for me since I'm such a Bee Gees fan, but wow, that's interesting.
This is when we lived in Australia, as kids, because we had a recording contract with a big record company that had very little time for children. And because we didn't understand as children that there wasn't really a market out there in the teenage market for
Wow.
records, no matter how good the songs may have been at the time, it just didn't feel. What was the first record you ever made? Do you remember?
So the question he asked was, what was the first record you ever made? Let's see what their answer is. Oh, it's gonna get, yay! They're gonna sing I Love It, and acoustic too. Barry has a wonderful laugh too. I'm so glad I get to hear them play an acoustic and sing. Let me turn this up. The first song they ever recorded is what they're doing. I've heard this song. Kiss me once, so yeah, baby. Kiss me once, so yeah, crazy. 3 times, 3 uses of love. Beatles influence. I love it.
Was a song called Wine and Women.
Ooh, they're gonna do the song Wine and Women, and I love that song. Sounds kind of cutting out a little bit, but women. I love this song. Oh. I love that. This is such a great interview.
To get yourself established, was it rough? Um, well, we got off the ship at Southampton and we met this group who were all dressed like the Beatles were in Hard Day's Night with the black cloaks, and all that business. And they said, go back, go back. Go, you're doomed. You're doomed.
Wow.
Three shadows, three ghosts. It's on the railway track. Groups are out. That was the statement, which is pretty amazing, considering that groups still do all right. Groups are out, go back. So we didn't. But that was the message. And we went to see people like the Great Organisation and all these people who said, we can get your club work, boys. But groups are out. They said the same
Wow.
thing again to us. And who's one of the greats we went to see? Who just yeah, well, don't quote the poor man because, all right. He's got two phones in his car now. Old coach, but he did say go away. Yeah. But your big breakthrough came with a couple of marvelous songs. Yeah. The New York mining disaster. That's right.
Wow.
Massachusetts.
Yep.
New York mining disaster is one of my favourite songs. But where did it come from? I mean, the idea for that. Well,
So right now they're talking about the song New York Mining Disaster.
Polydor Records, yeah, please. It came actually. It was written in a very sort of strange place for that type of song. It was written in the basement of Polydor Records, Stratfield Court, in London.
Huh. So it was written in the basement. Wow.
And with all the lights out.
With all the lights out. Wow.
Places. And it was on stairs in the dark. And I suppose, because it was the atmosphere, I mean, we didn't realise, of course, it was midday and it was right in the middle of the offices of Polydor at the very time. But the lights were out anyway. Now we just re-got the song. But what was the thought line in New York mining disaster? Had there been a New York mining disaster? No, we made it up. Well, there was a mining disaster in New York about 1935, but it didn't relate to the song at all. It was in the state of New York. We made it up. We were just sitting in the dark and we couldn't see each other, and that was where the idea sprang from. So what would it be like trapped in say, a mine, for instance?
So they were all sitting in the dark and they couldn't see each other, so that came their idea for New York mining disaster. Since they couldn't see each other, it kind of gave. I can see that. I get what they mean.
Write something about that. We're very pessimistic people.
Yeah.
At the same token, we wanted a song that, as it was our first single in England, we wanted a song to draw attention as well. So a title like that was not to be dismissed. Well, the idea in those days was to come up with the most ridiculous title you could come up with. Right. We didn't want to. I mean, Matt Monroe could not have recorded this song. Well, will you play it for us now?
Oh, good. They're gonna play it. In the event that something happening to me, there is something I would like for you all to see. It's just a photograph of someone that I knew. Have you seen my wife, Mr. Jones? Do you know what it's like on the outside? Rocking you now, you'll cause a landslide, Mr. Jones.
I keep straining.
I used to hear a sound
Maybe someone is digging
underground.
Or have they given up and all gone
Home to bed.
thinking those who once existed must be dead?
You've seen my wife, Mr. Jones. Do you know what it's like on the outside? Talking you loud, you'll cause a landslide, Mr. Jones. I wish I could sing with them better, but I have sinus problems and my throat's just like not that good. So let's keep going. I love that song though.
Looking at you here now, playing together and so obviously enjoying yourself, it's difficult to believe that in fact you ever split up as you did. Because after the success created by this we were talking about now, these songs about, you did split up and you went your separate ways. Did you actually dislike each other? I think intensely at one point. We just did not get along. Yeah, I was more or less in the middle. It was always between Robin and me, really. You would say one brother one week and one brother would say something about the other brother the next week. What was your opinion about that, Morris? Having said all of that, Michael, No, I think the thing about that is that when it happened at the time, I think a lot of people don't that remembered it, that were around at the particular time, don't remember that we were very young at the time, a lot younger than people realise, and that we were also very green to the kind of success that we had initially. Right. And I
Hmm.
don't think each of us individually knew how to handle it, and we had a lot of egos. Young people develop very fast and very quickly, and
Yep.
a lot of things that are of value to a young person are very superficial, including like relationships don't mean a thing. Yes. For instance, or how close someone is, or the fact that you're brothers don't mean anything. Or when you're hurt at that age, you're hurt forever. Yeah, that's right. As opposed to when you get older, when you mellow out, you realise that there are you can get around these situations. Yes. It was the success that was tearing you apart. I mean, you couldn't handle we didn't see it as sort of saying, it's success tearing us apart. We never thought of it like that. We thought, it was very easy for somebody to get one of us aside and say, you don't need the other two. Blah, blah.
Hmm.
We had a lot of that. That kind of thing. We're very
Yeah.
green and very sort of trusting. I think it still happens with groups today, very much. Oh, yeah. But
I think it still happens nowadays. So yeah.
too much money, ego. When you buy two or three cars that generally people cannot afford at all, and you buy three of them, and that's an example of it. It was pure craziness. Yeah. There was no sense. There was no logic. Lack of maturity. Lack of maturity was good. Well, when you
Lack of maturity.
though, I mean, were you miserable then? Oh, fed that's up. What brought us back together. Yeah. Really? Well, Rob, you sat in a bedsitter in Madrid. Really? No, it's actually no. Actually, he probably puts it down to a fine sort of example because when he had a hit with Saved by the Bell, we had a hit with Don't Forget to Remember, and they both went to number two. And the thing
Well.
that he pointed out was that once you had a number one record or a big record, there was no one to share it with. You could turn around and say, "Guess what, love?" To the wife, the record's number one. She goes, "Oh, that's nice, dear." But, but when you could share it between the three of us, we missed all that. It was the fact that some bastard was keeping us out of number one. Did you ever at that point, though, any of you, did you feel like giving it all up? And we've considered that over a year. I think individually, when you get depressed now and again, you think, "God, I think it's all this is ridiculous. Yes. It doesn't work." Yes.
I feel that way sometimes.
We never did. We remind ourselves as sort of, maybe it's a bit radical of a sort of Three Musketeer type situation. Yes, that's right. A very close personal.
When Barry said sometimes you get depressed and you just feel like throwing it away. Basically talking about music and stuff that you just feel like throwing it away. Sometimes you feel like it won't work or whatever. I've kind of felt that way before. I felt that way past few days, and then I got over that and I kind of worked it out. And I get what I needed this. I needed this interview. This is a really good interview.
That's pretty radical, isn't it? Yeah. Go on, anyway. All right, the Three Stooges.
The Three Stooges.
Curly, Larry, and Moe. Yeah, right. There's Moe sitting around. You were gonna say.
Ah, he said Curly, Larry, and Moe, and then Barry looked at Morris and goes, and "There's Moe over there." I love it.
That is what is between us, and it's so much more fun being together. Do you think it's also because we're brothers? Yes.
Of course.
It made a play. But I think, anyway, sorry, man. No, it's good. Just good. Nice to play a bit more music, actually, because I do like listening
Yay, play more music.
to
Please. I love it.
We can play.
I mean, I like their talking voices too, though, and what they talk about, and they're really smart, but I love their music more.
Well, I know I was going to. You should be doing
Why am I so excited? Can't help it.
I don't know. I met this fella in a pub.
Wonder what they're gonna play.
General tune-up. This is all right. Billy Connolly did it. Got away with it.
Billy Connolly didn't get away with it. Oh my goodness.
Right.
Wonder if Billy saw this interview.
Okay, right. Massachusetts, folks.
Massachusetts. Okay.
Love these intros.
To Massachusetts. And the night all went down in Massachusetts. The harmonies are incredible. And this is live, folks. I mean, amazing. The audio switched a little. Always down in Mm, beautiful. Their harmonies and everything is just so beautiful. I don't know how to describe it except that. All went down in Massachusetts. Mm, beautiful. The harmonies, I just can never get over because it's so beautiful. I love it.
I mean, that's the real standard. I mean, that would be song as long as people sing popular music. That would be nice. Well, we haven't heard it since we recorded it. Oh, it's a beautiful no, standard song. Do you think of your music that way? Yeah. But we are all mostly songwriters. We probably take our music more seriously than anyone might imagine we do. We get very offended when anyone puts our songs down. We get really hurt.
Really?
Yeah. Or a writer or of a book or yes. You shouldn't really take it.
That kind of surprises me that Barry said we get really offended when people put our songs down. Like me, if I was an artist, like an actual singer, if somebody put my song down, I wouldn't get offended. I would just say, well, they don't like it, but that doesn't matter. Other people like it, you know. That's kind of interesting. That I wonder if they thought like that always or only when they were younger. Someone comment down below if Barry or the rest of them have said that in later interviews down the road, that they get offended by that, because that's kind of surprising if that's true. I don't know why that surprises me so much. It just kind of surprised me a great deal that he said that. I mean, I know this is an old interview. Like, I know it was probably in the 70s or so. I'm not sure what year because they didn't say. So, let's keep going. But I'm kind of surprised by that.
Take it all that seriously, but we do. What does get up our nose? It just
Does get up our nose.
what are the statistics of what you've done? Who's the statistician here? Who's the one who? I mean, you've done everything that. Well, you've done more than any other group of musicians apart from the Beatles, haven't you? Basically, that's yeah. One of the records is that we've actually equaled the Beatles record in America, which is
Oh,
67
wow.
number one singles, which we're very proud of. Yes. And plus we've got the number one, the biggest selling album of all time, which is
Wow.
Saturday Night Fever. Well, that again is extraordinary because
Yeah,
your career was down, you came back up again. You are in the introduction. I said you're battlers, aren't you? Is that by nature? Well, it's. I don't know. I don't know. I think so. It's like a period that we had in the mid 70s, where we had a pretty bad period because for the fact of the matter is we were very young even then at the time. We were ready to give up. Yes. You know? And I think it was very strange at the time. It was more so in England than it was in the States because in England they were going through a very peculiar musical phase at that time with this sort of which was described as metal rock or heavy metal.
yeah.
And again, as we were writers and producers first, we hadn't really explored all the avenues of our, of our research, of where the areas we wanted to research. We found we could do this more in the States, which meant we had to leave England at that particular period, about 1974, to go and go more in the studios in the States, which is mainly Miami, where we have our own studios now. Yeah, we love England very much, but at that time we felt like the people in England weren't really interested in the Bee Gees. They were interested in everything else, and we felt sort of as if we shouldn't be around. And so that reason we thought if we went to America, we have a chance of making it back, but if we stay here, we might not, because there was so people knew us so well, and they weren't prepared to accept us coming back so easily. So that's the reason we did it. Well, you made the right move, and you are back. Yes, we are. And it's good to see you back. It's nice to be back. And you're going to, in fact, play us out tonight with are we finishing off already? Isn't that amazing?
I wonder what their last song is going to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what are you going to sing for us, Michael? I'm not going to sing.
Somebody told me that they were going to do a Christmas song at the end of this. I haven't seen it until now. But somebody told me that they were going to have a Christmas song at the end of this. So I wonder which one. I don't know. Oh, I love it. I used to sing this at church every Christmas, or close to Christmas. Holy night. I love that. That was such a good interview. Thank you so much for requesting that. That was beautiful. I really enjoyed that interview. I haven't reacted to a ton of Bee Gees interviews. I've reacted to a few before, but that was incredible. So thank you so much for requesting that, and stay tuned for the next reaction video.